Exam didn't follow the rubric, didn't cite a source. She wrote from the heart, which is not what we do.
But I'm deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the question for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence. I'd like to remind you to please like and subscribe, comment down below any opinions or facts that you have. I love to hear from you guys. Please be sure to check out all my other social media platforms, links down in the description below. Let's continue with the show. Last story of the day. I know we just have a really quick show today. I've just been focusing really on a lot of other projects, but we'll get into more of the news stories as we go into the next year. I'm so excited about what this has to offer. But we're just going to focus on one more story today, and that is going to take most of our attention for the day. That is a transgender professor at the University of Oklahoma. He identifies as a she, they. Mel Kurth gave a 0 on a paper written by a student named Samantha Fulnecke, who is apparently a Christian conservative, she is taking his class. And in this paper, the student, Samantha, she cites the Bible as her response to an article on gender identity. This was the task. Let's see if I can find. I have all the information here. I have Samantha's essays. I have the directions. I have the response from the transgender professor. But before we get into all that, let's take a look at the directions that were given to Miss Samantha Fulnecke. Reaction papers are graded on a 25-point scale and are evaluated based on the following. This is pay attention to this. 1, does the paper show a clear tie-in to the assigned article? 10 points. 2, does the paper present a thoughtful reaction or response to the article rather than a summary? 10 points. 3, is the paper clearly written? 10 points. Let's see, that you must write a 650-word body of text. So the requirement is that it's 650 words long. I will deduct 10 points if your paper is written between 620 and 649 words. The deadline. It's important to have a discussion of why you feel the topic is important and worth study or not, and an application of the study or results shown in your own experience. So as I was researching this story, I saw a lot from the Democratic side of the aisle of these people going on social media, YouTube, Instagram, saying, this paper should not have been written. It should have been given a 0 because she put emotion in a research paper. They claim that this was supposed to be a research paper. That is not true. I want you to take a look. This is actually a quick video that will show some of what has been the response from the left side of the aisle. This is a young woman claiming that this is a research paper and that Samantha Fulnecke deserved a 0.
Hey, it's your girl Suki, and unfortunately, I am obsessed with the Samantha Fulnecke story. Samantha Fulnecke is a college junior who wrote a paper and she received a 0 on it. Deservedly so. Take the L in silence. Like, why don't people like taking L's in silence anymore? It is okay not to let the world know that you failed spectacularly. Like, oh my gosh. Like, and I don't like to dogpile on the children. Frontal lobe, whatever. I don't like to do it. But this is a junior writing a paper, and she was just like, rubric be damned. Didn't follow the rubric, didn't cite a source. She wrote from the heart, which is not what we do for a research paper. Ain't nobody caring about your heart. This ain't no creative writing class. What are we teaching the children if we're not going to hold them accountable? Okay, so anyways, she receives a 0. Instead of taking the L in silence, she snitches. Now, the teacher is suspended. Turning Point USA has gotten involved. And people from sea to shining sea are reading this paper. And all she had to do was say, dang, I'll do better on the next paper. Let me not tell the world that I don't know how to cite a source. As a junior, I am concerned about her other courses. What are we teaching the children? Why is her mama a lawyer? I am infatuated.
But as you can see, that narrative completely contradicts the actual assignment. The assignment being to formulate your own opinion based off the article. This wasn't a research paper. This was, give your own opinion using the facts in the article and all that. So the article is about transgenderism and about gender ideology in our society. And before we get into the response of the professor, I want to read at least a few portions of Samantha's essay. This is the complete, unedited essay that Samantha Fulnecki submitted. This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and its role it plays in our society. The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose for a purpose. God is very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. It is frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion. So they do not step on people's toes. I think that it is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It is important to use the freedom of speech we have been given in this country, and I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental, as it pulls us farther from God's original plan for humans. It is perfectly normal for kids to follow gender stereotypes because that is how God made us. The reason so many girls want to feel womanly and take care of others in motherly ways is not because they feel pressured to fit in societal norms. It is because God created and chose them to reflect his beauty and his compassion in that way. In Genesis, God says it is not good for man to be alone, so he created a helper for man, which is a woman. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to women. However, the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo, and that directly translates to helper equal to. Additionally, God describes himself in the Bible using ezer kenegdo, or helper, and he describes his Holy Spirit as our helper as well. This shows the importance God places on the role of the helper, women's role. God does not view women as less significant than men. He created us with such intentionality and care, and he made women in his image of being a helper and in the image of his beauty. If leaning into that role means I am following gender stereotypes, then I'm happy to be following a stereotype that aligns with the gifts and abilities God gave me as a woman. I do not think men and women are pressured to be more masculine or more feminine. I strongly disagree with the idea from this article that encouraging acceptance of diverse gender expression could improve students' confidence. Society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and that everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic and severely harms America's youth. I do not want kids to be teased or bullied in school. However, pushing the lie that everyone has their own truth and everyone can do whatever they want and be whoever they want is not biblical whatsoever. The Bible says that it is our lives that are not our own, but that our lives and bodies belong to the Lord for his glory. I live my life based on this truth and firmly believe that there would be less gender issues and insecurities in children if they were raised knowing that they do not belong to themselves, but that they belong to the Lord. Wow, that is apparently controversial to this transgender professor. But before we get into that, I think we need to take a look at what she was saying. She was taking words from the Bible being the most influential book in all of history when it comes to theology, politics, basic knowledge in general, philosophy, poetry, science. It is the baseline and cornerstone of our entire society and community. Also, we have to understand that the University of Oklahoma is a public university. It is taxpayer funded. Therefore, I believe the First Amendment applies to this university. The First Amendment being the government not being able to dictate what religion you believe in, or it can be understood as the government being blinded. It is the government being blind, being just when weighing religion. That's not to say that our government isn't sided in morality, because morality comes from Christianity. Our government was founded on Christian principles. Judeo-Christian principles. But that does not mean that we should discriminate against one religion, lift up one religion over another when it comes to our universities. However, this transgender professor said, quote, "Please note I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the question for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at the same time offensive." We're going to stop right there before we go any further. I don't even know if we need to go any further. This professor directly contradicts himself. He says in the beginning, "Please note I'm not deducting points because you have certain beliefs," and then directly goes into the fact that, "Oh, your ideas are offensive, I'm deducting points." That is a direct contradiction. We can skip down to this portion here. "I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but you using your own personal beliefs," again, a contradiction of what the professor initially said, "to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice." So if I understand it, the original assignment was to formulate the opinion on the article, to write a reaction essay to the article, a paper that would cite what the person thinks about the article. The professor said, "I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs," and then directly says, "Your beliefs are wrong. You don't cite science." The science, we have to all understand that the science is the answer, even though the definition of science is something that is testable and that is changeable based on evidence. Science isn't fact. It isn't always true. Science changes and adapts with the time. This professor is ridiculous. This is nonsense. Why are taxpayer dollars funding a person who is obviously delusional, someone who is a man who believes that they have the pronouns she, they, who is obviously siding with atheism over Christianity, and who is forcing his beliefs upon a student? I think that Samantha Folnecki is completely vindicated in all of the news that has come out about this. I think that she needs to continue fighting for what she believes in because she is true. She has logic on her side. It is quite funny to me that if a Muslim student were to come at this from the point of a Muslim viewpoint, this professor would probably say, "That is amazing. Continue doing what you're doing." But because it is a Christian doing this, writing this essay, all of a sudden it is racist, offensive, unfair. That is not the answer. The answer is to give all evidence, to weigh everything, to see what is true. This professor obviously is incapable of doing that. Therefore, this professor is today disproved. This professor has contradicted himself time and time again. This professor failed a student who didn't deserve it. And of course, we hear from both sides of the aisle that, well, the essay wasn't written with great grammar. But compared to what comes out of colleges today, this is a great essay. Okay, it is astounding to me that we can see that the common farmer in the 1700s had a better vocabulary than today's modern college graduate. That needs to change, and it must change. Ladies and gentlemen, today we need to start a revolution of common sense. With people like Samantha Folnecki, with people like Riley Gaines, standing up for what is right, good, true, and beautiful against this hodgepodge of anti-American ideals, anti-Christian ideals, and political correctness. Inside of all this noise, we need to stand up for what is right, what is proven time and time again to be true. And together, we can save America. Thank you guys for checking out this episode of The Ocean Rosso Show. Please be sure to leave any of your facts or opinions down in the comment section below. Please be sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoy the content we're producing. Be sure to check out our show every Friday at 12 p.m. We release a new episode. God bless you all, and may God bless America.